Hello and welcome to this special discussion on the recent withdrawal by the government. I'm using the word withdrawal because that's what newspapers have reported. We really don't know what the government's intentions are. Withdrawal of the Broadcast Services Bill, which was very controversial, which was seen as a naked attempt by the government to control media, online news media and other media as well. Uh, so, is this the first time that the government is trying to control the media? Uh, uh, no. Uh, this has the way legal amendments and various laws have been brought uh, uh, over the last 2 years, 2 3 years. Um, Seemingly unrelated laws, the Telecom Amendment Bill or the Data Protection Bill. Uh, uh, if you closely read into those amendments, if you read those amendments and if you see their implications, uh, there seems to be a multi, uh, if you please, multi tentacle effort to get to control the media, to censor the media, to basically to even intimidate the media. Uh, the recent withdrawal of the broadcast bill did surprise many of us in the media because all of us, various media associations, were campaigning against the many of the provisions of the broadcast bill. Uh, so why did the government withdraw the broadcast bill? How do we read it politically? Is it because the government feels much weaker today than it did in its earlier avatar, NDA 2? These are all very speculative questions. At the moment, all we know is that the government has withdrawn the broadcast bill 2024, and it has said that it will come back with a more, in their own words, with a more comprehensive bill, which will take into account all the feedback from stakeholders. This is not. This doesn't sound like the Modi government NDA 2, where they're so generously saying that feedback will be taken into account and a new bill will be brought. So to understand what is going on, to understand uh, the the overall trajectory of multifarious multiple laws which have been coming over the last 2 3 years to really to sort of control the media and I would even go to the extent of saying to assault the media freedoms which are guaranteed under Article 19(1) of the Constitution. So we have with us Anant Nath, who wears two hats. He's a chief editor of Caravan, a very courageous publication which has been challenging the establishment for now over a decade, and he is also the president of the Editors Guild of India, which is the oldest journalists body, media association. It's of editors, but it encompasses media organizations of all kinds. The traditional media, online media, editors of new media, etc. They're all members of this. And Editors Guild has also made its interventions in regard to the broadcast bill. So we'll try to understand from Anant Nath what exactly is going on, because he's done a fairly comprehensive study of various laws and of the politics also. So welcome to our show, Anant Nath. Thanks for joining me on this discussion. So please begin by just telling our audience in simple terms, what is it that the multiple laws that you've been talking about, which the government has been trying imposing on the media in general, and media and society and citizens in general, and how it's actually affecting the media in particular. So can you just give us a trajectory of what has been going on in the last 2 3 years?
Right. Thanks, Venu. Pleasure to be here. So I think the broadcast bill, which, as you rightly said, we don't know whether it has been withdrawn for good or whether they have sort of gone back to the drawing board stage. And of course, there's all these questions regarding the motivations, the pressures that the government may or may not have been under. But the important thing to sort of keep in mind is broadcast bill was the latest in a series of legislation that the current government has put in place over the last 3 years to control, monitor, censor and block content and across media space, so online, physical and broadcast. This all started in 2021. The IT rules 2021 were introduced. But before that, the background to the regulation of media, one is to understand the background to regulation of media. Print media was being governed by something called the PRB, the Press and Registration of Books Act, 1867, which was primarily not a regulatory act. It was more of a catalogue of the print publications in the country. The spirit and ethos of the act was to maintain a catalogue and register of publications. It had very little regulatory powers, so to say. So print media, in very broad terms, was not so strongly regulated. There was, of course, the Press Council, which has some, you can say, reprimand powers, but that it's limited to that. The Cable and the Cable Television Act was, of course, there, which had far more regulatory powers, and the broadcast media was the linear TV was under the broadcast or the Cable and Television Act, which was there, and which had more regulatory powers. They had, there were powers, provisions built in to, block channels or at least take some action against channels which were, which would broadcast content which was inappropriate. And we'll come to what is the definition of inappropriate, because that is at the heart of all the legislations. But I'll come to that in a moment. Digital media was under no regulation. Print media was under limited regulation. So what the government did in 2021 is introduce the IT rules, where they brought in a certain set of a code, ethics code, content code, and along with that, introduced a system, a regulatory system, which was a 3-tier regulatory system that any digital news media entity had to follow. And very simply, it was 3-tiered. The first tier was that a publication, a media house, a digital media house had to have its own grievance redressal officer. Anybody, if they had a complaint against the content, they had to approach it to the grievance redressal officer. And the second tier was that digital media outlet had to be part of a self-regulatory organization, whichever self-regulatory organization they could be part of. And the third was that there is a government constituted interministerial group where members from various ministries were part of it, headed by a joint secretary level officer, and they had the final powers to deem a content inappropriate, and if deemed inappropriate, block that content. So the final authority was with the government.
Just 1 second here. And block the content without informing the publisher.
Well, no, informing the publication was there. Informing the publication was there. I mean, it was not against the principle of natural justice, so to say. They would, an opportunity to be heard, but the final power was with the government, and they could, their decision was binding. And to challenge that, you have to go to the court, so to say. So government became the final arbiter of deciding whether your content is appropriate or inappropriate and worthy of being blocked. So
that's the core issue.
Core issue that a government therefore had a handle to censor content in the online space ostensibly, but practically this extended to every sphere, because every print publication in the country is publishing that same content in the online space. Every broadcast channel has a live feed on their website. So by controlling the space, you have controlled print, you have controlled broadcast. This was 2021. This the 3-tier structure has been challenged in the Madras High Court, and I think one more High Court. It's under, so it's under challenge.
Three High Courts have been challenged.
3 High Courts, yes.
In Madras, Bombay, and Kerala.
And
there are stays from all 3.
Stays, but in spite of that, the IT ministry has been blocking content. Caravan's own content has been blocked. Wire's content has been blocked. We have challenged those in the court, but for the moment, those content is blocked, because if you don't block that content, the intermediaries are being instructed to shut down our websites. And intermediaries cannot go against the government, because they will lose the safe harbor protection if they don't follow the government's orders. So practically, they have the censorship powers. The 2021 rules was followed by the 2023 amendment, in which the fact-checking unit was introduced, where the government further took it pushed the envelope, and they said that anything which was fake or even more worryingly misleading about their affairs will be deemed as problematic, and you have to remove it. So government is becoming the final judge in determining your reporting of media on their affairs.
In this case, the Press Information Bureau.
First was Press Information Bureau. First was Press Information Bureau.
Removal of content. Yeah.
Right. But then the government backtracked, and then they said when the amendment came out, they said a fact-checking unit. So the PIB was removed because Editors Guild and many other organizations said PIB is a press release body. How can they have the power to it? And the government said, okay, fine, not PIB, some other body. Now, fact-checking
unit, like a public relations agency.
Yes.
The government having the right to recommend removal of content.
Yeah, and very innocuous things. Let's say tomorrow the government said, the production of wheat in the country has been X million tons, and somebody else finds out and says, no, it's been actually Y million tons. The government can actually say that your information is wrong, remove this content. If you don't remove the content, tell the social media intermediary or the ISPs to remove your content. So this is as censorship as Orwellian as it can be, because the government has the final say on its own affairs. The fact-checking unit has been stayed because we challenged the fact-checking unit in Bombay High Court. Bombay High Court stayed it while hearing the merits of the argument. Finally, there was a 3-judge split verdict. The 3rd judge decided that the stay to be uplifted. We approached the Supreme Court right before the election. The Supreme Court reinstated the stay. So as of now, there is no fact-checking unit, but the case is being heard.
So along with this, before you proceed, so from what you have related so far, it's clear that the government has been losing many of these cases in terms of when it comes to trying to control the news media, online news media. All the stays in Chennai High Court, Bombay, Kerala, and now you said Supreme Court, it does suggest that the judiciary is giving a pushback. Am I right in my understanding?
I won't be so simplistic, but yes, judiciary has been. I mean, the track record with the judiciary has also been mixed, but I would say the judiciary, at least in some of these very important cases, has been far more assertive. And we have seen judiciary's track record in multiple other cases has been also, less than what we would expect from them. But on these big matters, I would say that they've been assertive. But along with these IT rules and the amendments, then they introduced in the last couple of years 3 other legislation. The Broadcast Bill was introduced, of course, in November last year as well. The Data Bill, which was made into Data Act, and the new Press Act to replace the PRB, Act. Now, in all these 3 bills, and now 2 of them are acts, the Data Act and the Press Bill is also an act.
You're talking about the Data Protection Act, right? Yeah.
Data Protection Act.
Bill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, there again, the provisions have been the scope of journalistic freedom has been curtailed because very, very, very innocuously in an overt manner they've said that if there is no journalistic exemption under the Data Protection Act. So technically, a very fine reading would state that if as a journalist I want to report on you, I need technically your permission. Because I'm going to report about your personal affairs, I might report about your income, so all the data is protected. Now, if any reporting has to be done with the permission of a public official, then that's the end of reporting. The Data Act also has this.
So, in a sense, just to explain this aspect a little more clearly, Anant, which means a journalist will have to think twice before applying to say the registrar of companies and to get some balance sheets of companies out that he or she is investigating, and to get that data out in public domain. That it's
a gray area. I mean, right? that's a question. We actually wrote to the ministry that journalistic activities have to be exempted because this is the right of the journalist. This is the obligation, not even right. It's the duty and the obligation upon us to tell the part of the story that a person doesn't want to be told. Technically, taking out their data, I mean, somebody could challenge that, okay, you published my personal data without my consent. You are in violation of the Data Protection Act. And it's a gray area. I don't think so. I'm legally capable of sort of commenting which direction will go, but there is an ambiguity around that. Further, of course, the Data Bill reduced the scope of RTIs that we again reducing the scope for reporting. The Press Bill, by the way, had a very interesting addition. Is that they have said that anybody who is convicted of an unlawful activity as defined by UAPA doesn't have any right to publish newspaper. Now, when you contrast that with the PRB Act, that which is floated by the British, the highest culpable crime against the state was sedition. And if one was charged with sedition, the PRB Act at that time did not have any provision which said that if you are charged with sedition, you cannot publish a newspaper. Gandhi was charged under sedition. Lokmanya Tilak was charged under sedition. They both ran newspapers. They were both publishers, editors of whatever, Young India and Kesari. There was no bar from anybody from publishing or printing or editing a newspaper because that was your sacred right. The new bill, while saying, or new act rather, while saying that we are post-colonial, more democratic, actually is creating more restrictions than what the colonial law had put in. And the scope and ambit, by the way, of the rules for audit and inspection of your documentation actually is more than in the new Press Act than in the previous PRB Act. So again, the government has created a scope for it to enter your premises, inspect your documents, stop you from publishing a certain newspaper. I mean, definitely if you are charged in the UAPA, and we know how easy
this is the new act, right? The
new Press Act, which is not even a bill now; it's an act now.
Okay, and the government is claiming that it is more democratic and it's post-colonial.
Yes.
I mean, that's the irony of it.
That's the irony of it. Now, then the broadcast bill came, where again they have introduced in November broadcast bill that they had introduced the same set of guidelines to say that what content is appropriate or not and not appropriate. So here, let me just dial back. The IT rules, the broadcast bill, and many other existing laws in the country derive a lot of legitimacy from Article 19.2 of our Constitution. 19.1 guarantees us freedom of speech. 19.2 states that governments can make laws under special circumstances to restrict freedom of speech, which are basically those 8 or 9 exceptions: friendly relations with state, obscenity, public order,
national security,
national security, contempt of court. Now, all of these are very subjective words. What is obscene for me may not be obscene for you. Reporting on an ethnic violence can be seen as further fomenting ethnic violence, because if my newspaper or my publication reports that a certain clash happened and A community started the clash against B community, which is a factually reported matter, somebody could argue that you are fomenting further hatred. So
this happened with us. I must say,
it happened with you.
Because
these provisions.
I reported a mosque, small mosque, which was demolished in UP, and just reporting it, just visually reporting it.
The mere fact of reporting
of creating division among communities.
So these exceptions have found a place in a whole host of civil laws. Even before the IT rules, it was there in Cable and Television Act. It was there in some other, even laws like customs and all, because they could say that we can prohibit import of content which is falling foul of these provisions. It was there in criminal laws because the so-called Offensive Speech Act, which is 153, the IPC, erstwhile IPC 153 and 295, 298, 502, multiple other provisions. All of them derive the legitimacy from 19.2, and FIRs could be lodged against journalists for reporting on ethnic violence, for reporting on stuff which is against security of state, so on and so forth. These 8 or 9 exceptions have found a space in IT rules. And these 8 or 9 exceptions have found a prominent space in the broadcast bill. And these same exceptions, which have always been there in the erstwhile IPC, have found a space in the new BNS. And what has happened is over the years, so much of subjectivity has been introduced to sort of determine a content which is either both inappropriate or illegal. And the power to decide,
they use the word
in bad taste, and power to decide that has been given by a very wide set of government officers. And there also, if you see the IT rules, the broadcast bill, even the Press Act, by the way, they have ambiguous terms like specified authority, competent officer. They're not specifying who. Now, a police officer could also be a specified officer, specified authority. So as a result, what the government is doing is delegating the powers to determine what is correct or not correct to a very wide spectrum of government officers, agencies, which could be law enforcement agencies, it could be investigative agencies, both within the criminal space and in the civil space. So all of this is coming together. So what I will urge everybody to sort of think about is Press Act, IT rules, Telecom, by the way, Telecom Act, Data Act,
in fact, here, Anant, I want just
broadcast bill, and now the new criminal laws, all of these together can be used individually against the same piece of content. So if Wire has published a content which is against the government's interest, they can book you under IT rules. They can book you under, if the broadcast bill was passed, they could have booked you under broadcast bill. They can book you under criminal laws. I don't know whether they can book you in a Telecom Bill or not, a Telecom Act or not, but I think there is some provisions that could possibly also be used there to sort of curtail your content. So this multi-layered channel is what we need to worry about, because you find relief in one, they can get you in three others. It's like how the opposition leaders are being booked again under ED, IT, CBI. You find relief in one, there are two more. You find relief in second one, there's third one more. And you sort of entangle the organization and, more importantly, the individual, because now the broadcast bill was extending the format, the envelope, to even individual creators who don't have the wherewithal to actually have the legal defense and the mechanism to fight this system.
And they've criminalized, there's a criminal provision also, right? They could be sent to jail.
That's in the new criminal laws. So what they've done is, by the way, sedition, which was there in IPC 124, Guild had challenged it. The Supreme Court had put it under abeyance because the Supreme Court appreciated that sedition has no space in modern criminal jurisprudence. Even British legal system doesn't have sedition. The government said they will reconsider it. What they've done is, in the new BNS, Section 152 has brought back sedition by a new term called treason, and even expanded the scope. So not only have they not removed sedition, they have actually expanded the scope of sedition in the new act.
So Anant, tell me, from what you've said so far, in all these laws, there is a common kind of link, and the common link being, I'm just trying to put it very simply for our audience. You say that they use ambiguous terms in all these laws,
which derive legitimacy from 19.2 from Constitution itself.
To expand the scope of 19.2, and then to reduce shrink the scope of 19.1, where you have freedoms, right? Yes. So attempt has been made to expand 19.2, and attempt has been made by the government to empower itself to become the sole arbiter of content. Now, here there's a big question. Under the Constitution, it's the Supreme Court which is the sole arbiter of whether
interpreter, I guess,
whether whether there's a violation of freedom of press. It can't be the government. So so as you rightly said, they've expanded the 19.2 as per their own whims and fancy. So I'm sure that at some point the Supreme Court will have to look at that, right? Because they're actually taking away the Supreme Court's authority to be the sole arbiter, because they are becoming the sole arbiter now. The government becoming the sole arbiter of whether content is publishable or not, kosher or not, or whether it passes the test of freedom of
So no, I don't know whether they're taking away the Supreme Court's. I don't think the Supreme Court has the sole authority. Supreme Court has the final authority in interpreting the Constitution.
That's what I'm saying. The sole authority.
But the government has the powers to make laws. So I mean, to be honest, after all these 70, 80 years of history, looking at history of successive governments, because I also want to emphasize, this is not a problem which is confined to the current government. Previous governments and various state governments have used the same 19.2 provisions to create laws to expand their control over media. So this is, you have to also understand, this is not one government's problem. Congress, in fact, previous government.
I'll add one caveat here. In the past, whenever there's been a draconian bill that has been brought, there has been a pushback and they've been withdrawn. Whether 1989 Rajiv Gandhi, that bill,
Defamation Act, Defamation Bill.
So of course, these things were much simpler because there was mostly traditional media, right? The newspaper, there wasn't even private television. But things are much more complex today with the advent of the social internet and social media, which have become major distribution channels for media. So at the moment, you're right. The government is also coming at us through platforms which are very, very critical to our existence, right? For instance, the Telecom Bill, they define telecom services very loosely. They, WhatsApp is also telecom services.
Yeah.
Traditionally, telecom service was merely conversation, between two people on the phone, right? In the good old days, right?
Yes.
Now with internet, advent of internet, telecom services definition is also changed. WhatsApp is used by all of us. Journalists use WhatsApp for a lot of things, for broadcast, for. So if you include WhatsApp and if you force WhatsApp to reveal end-to-end encryption, it impinges on our freedoms, right? It equally affects our journalists' right to perform his duty to the readers and to work as a professional, simply as a professional. And all this has also resulted in as you said, Data Protection Act. If you add Telecom Bill's amendment to Data Protection Act, there's a very clear attempt to take away our freedom to a journalist's freedom, or even a common citizen freedom, a user's freedom to communicate with each other. The whole attempt is to somehow censor people from media from talking to the readers, and people from talking to each other also. That's very important. That's fraternity, right? So
yes.
Attempt to do that, and surveillance. I always held Pegasus. When Pegasus happened, many legal experts felt that the legal position for in case a government uses a military ware as lethal as Pegasus to get into your iPhone and to just lay bare your life, just learn everything about what's going on in your life, all your data, all your they access everything, email. There was no law which would allow this. In the old act, when internet did not exist, to intercept telephone conversation, they had to take a specific permission from the Home Secretary, Home Minister, and they have to do it. At the moment, we don't know whose permission is needed. Rightfully, they like in all other democracies, they should get a judicial officers, a proper judicial authorities permission to either seize your devices or to intercept your devices, which carry everything, right? So now, where do we stand on this? I mean, this is the core of our of a journalist function, right? Where do we stand on this?
Right. And also, I mean, just to the idea is not to monitor everybody, but idea is to monitor selectively. So obviously, we know that they cannot monitor everybody. They want to take action only selectively against those voices which are critical of the government, and then obviously set a chilling effect, because you all you need to do is make an example of 2 or 3 independent voices in a very clear and sort of scary manner, and most of the others will fall in line. So the whole idea is to create the chilling effect. But to answer your other question, where do we stand? I mean, obviously, you talked about the defamation case in Rajiv Gandhi's time, and the government sort of stepped back. But I wasn't there at that time, at least not professionally. I mean, but I know what
we were part of the we marched down the Rajpath.
But exactly, so the whole. That's the answer. The media fraternity, owners, editors, journalists together marched out. It was a collective action. Today we are so fragmented. How many of the larger media houses are willing to take that battle? How many of media owners want to take that battle? And none of them.
I want to understand this. Anant, you hit the nail on the head. This is exactly what I want you to tell us. As president of Editors Guild, what is your sense about the unity among various media organizations, all kinds of media organizations?
I don't think so. It's there. I think the independent ones are sort of left to fend for themselves. The large ones are wary of taking the battle for multiple reasons. There could be ideological alignment in some cases, and we know cases where there is ideological alignment with the government's position.
Is it more ideological or is it fear?
So there are 3 things. There is ideological alignment. There is, of course, fear of action. And then there is the economic incentive, because the model publishing is obviously going through its own financial problem. Government revenues are a huge source of revenue. For some newspapers, it could be as high as 50-60%. Now you don't bite the hand that feeds you, as simple as that. So all three factors are playing in, where for a certain section of media, there is an ideological alignment. I'm talking about, especially Northern Indian media. For quite a few others, there is a fear factor, because the government has created chilling effect, and not everybody has the same appetite, risk appetite. And the third, of course, is the clear financial reasons, where the government is the biggest spender on media at a time when commercial advertising is coming down. People are not paying for newspapers or media per se. So government is an important source of revenue. All these three come together, and then of course this elaborate system of government laws, which are becoming more and more intrusive. They are pushing the envelope further. The question is, yes, this is an existential question. Where will the fight come from? Well, for the moment, the fight will come from the independent media. The fight will come from a coalition between as many independent voices, whether it is organizations like ours or Guild is there, DigiPub is there. There are multiple other press clubs, by the way, and I can say with a fair degree of confidence, most press clubs in the country are fairly proactive. They want to take this fight. So that coalition of press clubs and a strong partnership with lawyers, because a lot of lawyers are very empathetic to the cause that we share, and they are
I
willing
remember,
to
Anant, you had recently organized a 2-day seminar.
Yes.
As on behalf of Editors Guild, and I was struck by the fact that, I mean, I've attended seminars, many seminars, media seminars earlier, but you had one panel of top legal experts, which I had not experienced earlier. I guess you had called them only to talk about how to deal with this multiple attacks through legal amendments and various laws to control the media, and to basically to deny readers facts, information, and the truth. So what are the sense you got when you spoke to the lawyers?
That there are lawyers. I mean, Supreme Court, of course, has exceptional lawyers who feel very strongly for it. I mean, some of them, Mr. Sibal, Dr. Singhvi, Sham Diwan, so many of them, Rebecca. They're just, these are just selective. Vrinda. There's so many lawyers. Nitya is there, who works with, supports Wire. These are just the top of the, hierarchy. But otherwise also, the number of lawyers across various high courts who deeply feel for, civil liberties and press freedom issues is there. We need to make sure that the coalition between journalists, editors, and lawyers is proactively taking these matters. We don't, the worst thing we can do is remain silent at this time. We have to be out there, and broadcast bill is one such example. We don't know whether this is an eventual victory or not, but for the moment, they've had to actually roll back. And please note that at least formally, there was no representation by a big media house. Whatever representations were there were Guild, DigiPub, maybe some of the lawyers' bodies, Internet Freedom Foundation maybe had done something. None of the big media really had, come out in open defiance of it. They might be putting their...
okay, here I would just like to add, I'm privy to a response that since the November 2023, the first version of the bill had asked for feedback. The digital news, the DNPA, the traditional media body, as in Express, Hindustan Times, who also have their online,
they had come up with
Digital News Publishers Association. They had given a response on the first version of the broadcast bill. They had raised all these issues about this conflation of OTT with news, etc., and they had mentioned that critically, they had also mentioned that some of these mechanism to control the media, news media under these broadcast laws are similar to those that we had seen in the IT Amendment Act. Same committees, same, it was almost as if they had done it.
It's identical.
That 3-layered committees and the top having joint secretaries, having full freedom to take down content. So they did say to the government that since all these in the IT Act, such mechanisms have been stayed by the various high courts, and the Supreme Court is yet to sort of Supreme Court is now trying to examine them, I guess, together.
Yes.
There has been some bunching of petitions. So why can't you hold it till the Supreme Court pronounces on that? But
Yes,
of course,
yes.
I think it fell on deaf ears because this government is, as you know, it's unilateral in its approach to everything. So I still believe, Anand, that the traditional media, while it is, you're right, they don't say anything publicly, but we have to, independent media and the DigiPub and people like you, I guess we'll have to engage with the traditional media a lot more to bring them also into the
No, it's actually collective action, and for the moment, whoever many parties are there, actually we have to be organized and we have to be proactive about it. I think that's most important, that proactively keep challenging it and go to the court. You're right that the courts have been generally at least far more empathetic. Definitely far more empathetic than the government. So at least as the final interpreter of constitution, we have no other option but to approach the judiciary. And the more we approach, the more we challenge, the more pushback will be there. I would imagine at some point it also creates a sort of sense that the industry will not take it lying down. I think the worst we can do is take things lying down, because that only strengthens the intentions of any government. By the way, again, I would say, it's easy to say that this government is the worst government. I mean, sure, they might be very, intrusive and draconian, but they're not the only intrusive draconian government that has ever been there. There have been, many such governments in past as well.
Yeah. But Anand, you must recognize. I'm sure you will recognize that this is the only government which is coming up with these multiple laws.
Of course, we haven't seen this kind of assault.
Every aspect of journalistic freedom to express not only for journalists but to general citizens, even in the internet space, because earlier governments did not encounter the internet space, right?
Well, they did not. Right.
There were plain vanilla attempts to muzzle the press. They were pushed back, but today we are facing a far more complex problem. You would recognize that where media models are under threat. At the same time, small media depends on platforms like YouTube, WhatsApp, etc., Google for its business model, and the present government is also, the government of the day is also in a position to negotiate with the big social media platforms and give them a pushback. So I guess we also need to engage with the YouTubes and WhatsApps and Googles to ensure that the minimum freedoms are maintained, because at some level they're also giving the government a pushback. For instance, WhatsApp has not agreed to end-to-end removal of encryption, which is tied to journalistic freedom also in some ways, right? We use those platforms, right? So in a way, our freedoms and their freedoms are linked. So we need to figure out how much will they compromise with the government, which will affect then our ability to do our work, perform our work, reach out to our readers. So it's a very complex.
And by the way, we don't know. For all we know, they might have been a pushback from them in the broadcast bill. I mean, we don't know. I don't know about that.
Yeah, we don't know that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That some of these guys they may be giving pushback privately.
Must have. I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised if they would have, because this is end of their business model as well. If individual creators,
their business model will get upended if they agree to many of the draconian policies or the legal requirements of the government. Like removing end-to-end encryption means WhatsApp's business model is gone.
Yes.
So similarly for Google and for YouTube also, and even Twitter. Recently, I read. I'm not sort of gone into the reasons, but Twitter has exited Brazil. I don't know why. So at some level, if the tensions between them grows beyond a point, they may even choose to exit. In fact, even in India, I think
that might be a very far-fetched thing, given the size of the country and the amount of data that you can gather from 1.4 billion people.
But Brazil is a big country too. But I wonder why there was a news item a few days ago. A headline
I know,
saw.
yeah,
I've not
yeah.
read the full report that Twitter is exiting Brazil. So we have to. There are so many dimensions to this whole issue. I guess there's a need to work together at the very least, as you said. All the stakeholders need to work together on this, and of course the lawyers community is very important for us too.
Great ally
Yeah,
to
yeah,
this
yeah.
cause.
And
In fact, one of the things I actually want to point out that the Guild wrote to the Home Ministry regarding the new criminal laws, and we sort of proposed something which which might sound a little radical, but I think practically it's becoming very important. Is a case for a journalistic exception in terms of how complaints are filed against journalists, because the same problem that you cited, mere reporting of an incident can also invite an FIR. So we had actually, in our letter, we had written that, before a complaint is converted into a FIR against a journalist in pursuit of the journalistic work, there should be a certain mechanism where a certain approval from a higher authority is taken before an SHO converts the complaint, because otherwise they convert the complaint into FIR prima facie evidence, and then the process becomes a punishment. And what we have requested or we have urged is that before such some step is taken, a much higher level of police officer should give approval, and also this should be brought under the knowledge of press council, because amongst all the available structures, press council comes closest to some amount of independence in terms of regulation or protection of rights of the press, because it is a body answerable to the parliament. Now we also know that the parliament is now being run by, when we say parliament, it's the chairman of Rajya Sabha and the speaker of Lok Sabha. Both of them are appointees of the current government. So in a way, the press council is also coming, invariably under the current government's control. But having said that, it's a body which is accountable to the parliament, not to the executive. So there is some mechanism, there is some scope here to strengthen press council as an institution, make it even more independent, make sure that any regulatory system, our demand from any ministry, MIB or MeitY, is simple. Regulation of press has to be in the hands of independent bodies. Government can be a part of it, for sure, can be a part of it. It cannot have a majority opinion. It has to be.
I remember, Anand, there was a proposal some years ago which came from Niti Aayog, I think 2017 or something, where a sensible one, which said that the press council itself could be expanded to bring in digital media also within their fold, right?
Yes. I think there is scope for that. I think there's merit to that now.
Yeah, there is for news. There is scope for that, at least in the news space, because press council deals with news. It doesn't deal with the.
It only deals with print media, not even broadcast, by the way.
Yeah, it's print. Yeah, exactly. News, print news. Yeah, broadcast, of course, as you said, the television, cable television.
Yes.
So thanks, Anant, for really giving us a much wider perspective on the multiple laws which are coming at us, both journalists and citizens. I'm not merely limiting this to journalists. Because
actually there is nothing called freedom of press in the constitution. There is freedom of expression and speech, and press has the same right as any individual.
Media. And I must add here, I'll end by adding, you've been saying about this government versus the previous. No other government, Anand, you would agree, would have raided 90 journalists within 72 hours and seized some 190 devices from their homes.
I think
don't
there
think
is
this has happened in India's history.
I think
it happened with as a NewsClick journalist. So,
barring that emergency period, no other government has been as draconian as this current government. There is no doubt to it. No other government has created legal systems in a way that will encroach in space of not just press freedom but civil liberties.
Absolutely.
There is no doubt to it. The only thing to contextualize it, that they have been building on a foundation which was there beforehand. And that foundation, unfortunately, has never been shaken up. I think at this point, I'm very clear that there is no space for 19.2. If we really want press freedom in the country, we have to go to the US way, which is absolute freedom of speech, because there's nothing called reasonable restrictions. And there is nothing called a reasonable government officer, they will always answer to the political masters. They will always be on the conservative side. This is the worst of what we've seen in as compared to all successive governments. But having said that, we should not.
Yeah, sure.
We should not lose sight that our previous governments have also been, have toyed with such draconian ideas as well.
Yeah, that would be the ideal, as you said, the American interpretation of freedom of expression. But at the very least, since the Supreme Court is the final arbiter and interpreter of law, they could still, I guess, limit the scope of 1912 in such a way that many of these multiple amendments that have come, expanding the scope of
yes.
of 1912, at least those can be done away with. With that hope,
which will require proactive action from us to approach the Supreme Court. See, Supreme Court will only respond to it. I don't think so they will do suo moto.
Yeah, maybe we'll need a comprehensive public interest litigation.
Yes, maybe
to put forth exactly all the points that you were making. All the multiple laws which are expanding.
It's definitely a question worth debating. I think it's a question worth debating and worth walking down that path to see where it leads us.
Yeah, where it leads us. Yeah. Thanks, Anand, for talking to us. I think this is very useful discussion, and we'll debate this. I guess we'll have to debate this in the days and months to come until things get better for us.
It's a good thing that we are able to push back to the government. So that's definitely an encouraging sign.
Yeah, let's hope we do. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.